You didn't rule out making cuts to the health and education departments today. Could that occur? How can you ensure it's not frontline services? And what about the ABC? Might you cut the ABC?
Andrew, if you have a look at the figures that are in, and this is a point I made today, the figures in the budget now for health and for education, they are the figures that we commit to. So the same funding, the same spending on health and education, we stick to and we commit to, and I've said that we will legislate for that.
But so you might reprioritise some of that funding as well.
Well, if we find waste in the department where there's not a frontline service being delivered, and don't forget that at a federal level, we don't own a hospital. The federal government doesn't run a school. There are funding agreements that are administered by the department, and the department's grown by literally thousands of people. Now, I want a better understanding of what those people are doing and whether it's helping kids in classrooms. Does it help to employ additional public servants in Canberra with classroom sizes or with additional support for kids with disabilities and with learning difficulties? I'm happy to be convinced of it, but I suspect that what's happened here is what's happened at a Victorian level and at a Queensland level, where the Prime Minister has ceded to the position of the unions, which is not about service delivery, it's about trying to placate the unions.
There's a lot of critics on your side about the ABC, so what about, would you have a look at their budget?
Well, again, I think the approach that we would take is to reward excellence and to where we find waste, to cut that waste. And there are a lot of regional services for the ABC which I think are underdone. We were out in Western Queensland just yesterday looking at the devastation of the floods, and the ABC could be a much more integral part of that community, but just having it based in Sydney or just being based in Melbourne is not helping people in outer metro areas or regional areas.
And what about the NDIS? They've got this 8% growth target. Do you think there's enough waste there or ability to reform it to bring that down?
Well, I've always said that I want to see the NDIS remain sustainable because it's an important program, and I was always particularly taken by, and I've got family. I've got family in this situation as well, where you've got ageing parents and adult children with disabilities and the uncertainty about what happens to their kids when the parents pass. So I always thought the NDIS was admirable in its intent in that regard. I worry about the reports that Bill Shorten and others from the Labor Party have put out about organised crime and the waste, and the government's obviously set up a task force. I haven't been briefed in relation to the outcomes of that, and there are probably matters that are under investigation. So I think you'd rely on that advice, but committed to the NDIS, committed to equity for people with disabilities, but against waste and rorts and rackets. And I want to see the money go to frontline services and help those who are most in need.